So I'm really happy to introduce a guy that I've seen at Claire's Sandbox Summit and seen around, and he's never been to Dust or Magic, and very smart guy, Stephen Gass.
A lot of you, or some of you in the room, know me as the creative, interactive guy from either Sesame Street or Scholastic or Nickelodeon or MTV. What a lot of you probably don't know is I actually started out on the research side of the business. I'm a PhD dropout, ADD, but what got me into this whole side of the world is my very first gig for Sesame Street as their research director in Interactive was spending about a week in a video game arcade trying to understand what preschoolers do, like, and can do in a video arcade. So the through line for me throughout my career has been, what do we know from research, and how can we let that inform what it is that we do? So what I've done for us today is I've put together a little interactive game show called Dust or Data. And the idea is that what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you about a little bit of research, and it's followed by some questions to find out what you guys actually know about what the world of research has been showing us. I mentioned that I was a graduate school dropout, but what I'd like to do is dedicate today's game show to Alan Gross, who was my statistics professor, who taught me very early on to really love the numbers, but be a little bit more skeptical about those people who manipulate the numbers. So this is for you, Alan. What's that? So here's your first question. You've all heard about the Mozart effect. What does this study refer to? What does it report? Kids 0 to 3 who listen to Mozart actually have greater intelligence. Babies who listen to Mozart stay higher. College students who listen to Mozart are better at mental origami games. Classical musical listeners spend less money on iTunes. Lasers, please.
Scott, it looks like we have a strong tending on A.
Oops.
Oops.
Yes, I think that's a cricket. I would say A2.
And although C is not everybody's
Are we ready?
C, I wonder why that would be.
It. Ah!
What's really interesting here, spawned up close to $1 billion worth of product. Never tested with kids, and had nothing to do with kids. There's a follow-up question. Let's see what we can learn about this. Mozart effect, which of the following statements are true? The effect itself lasted 15 minutes with those college kids. The governor of Georgia mandated money be spent on free classical CDs for every new family in the state. The results have never been replicated. Or D, all of the above.
Clearly trending D, all of the above.
I would say D.
With one person saying A.
And the answer is D, all of the above.
Wow.
What's really wacky, college students listened to music, did these mental sort of paper folding tasks, and the effect lasted for 15 minutes. The only study that actually shows this again in a smaller way was done with Mozart and a rock group called Blur out of the UK. But when you listen to Blur, you actually did better on those subtests.
Then Mozart?
Than Mozart, yeah.
Wow.
Wow. Okay. This is a personal favorite. Chip mentioned Christakis earlier. Big study done in 2004 with a very strong link between the amount of TV viewing and later reported ADHD. So which of the following statements are false? And I know that's a harder question to answer. This longitudinal study was based on a clinical as well as parental observation. The study was conducted as a telephone survey using a random set of parents. The study did not control for the TV content, and the study was later refuted in the Journal of Pediatrics.
But which
of
is
these statements
false?
is false? You ready?
A with a D. Oh.
Yeah. The first one. So the way this study was conducted, when the kids were one, parents got a telephone call saying, tell me how much TV your kids are watching. They took that data. 2 years later, when the kids were 3, tell me how much TV your kids are watching. They recorded that data. Then 4 years later, they called up and said, so, and I'm going to be a little irreverent here, so is your kid crazy? Is your kid bouncing off the wall? You think your kid has an attention problem? So essentially what was happening is this body of knowledge that spawned this huge business and got a lot of people really nervous, including pediatricians, was really based on a very faulty research study that 2 years later in the exact same Journal of Pediatrics was refuted. One of the things that fascinates me about this study is that it's still being talked about as if it's true, A, and B, the press never reports on anything other than what's bad between kids and media. You never see, hey, this is what we learned, and this is what we know. You don't see that being talked about. So let's move on. I think this one's going to be a giveaway. All right, interactive hotspots and ebooks improve a child's ability to retell the story. Never, sometimes, always.
Oh, looks like we got a B and
It's all over the place,
man. It's all over the place, but...
And the answer is sometimes. We've heard about this, a couple of people mentioned this earlier. What is particularly interesting is there is a study that goes back to the year 2000, ladies and gentlemen. And so this data's been around for 13 years. And this particular study took a look at whether or not if the hotspot actually helped to added information and it was really central to the story, those hotspots helped. They were scaffolding. Those that were really about, the bird going on, singing a song and the cute stuff and things waving, that actually was very distracting. All right, so keep this in mind for this next question. Okay, this is sort of cool and kind of controversial. There's a comparative study that looked at what happened when kids and parents were reading either electronic or print books. 2 of these statements are true. Yay, parents encourage and suggest interactive pathways which lead to greater comprehension. That's that whole, co-viewing, co-playing thing. Like, parents encourage and suggest interactive pathways that lead to greater confusion. The helipad parent as opposed to the helicopter parent. As long as a parent, this is the co-viewing thing, as long as a parent reads with a child, there's no difference in comprehension between whether they're using an ebook or a print book. And the children's comprehension when they read a print book is greater than when they read an ebook. There are 2, so get a buddy.
Oh, I like that. That's a challenge with a single finger.
That is a challenge.
I like
All
that.
right. Well, we'll just see where it goes.
Eric Stroman would love that.
Yeah, this one's kind of cool.
Sure.
Ooh.
I got the voice.
Ooh. There's a recent study, and again, it's like the bibliography is not as retrievable as I would like it to be right now. But there's a recent study that looked at this and found that, and again, some of it is about the interactivity and the child control thing. The parent is trying to do that we're going to read together thing. They're getting, what I like to refer to as a little ootsy, that the kid is trying to do this when they think they should either be reading, sticking to the words, or maybe they should be, oh, look, let's touch that spot and let's see what happens. Where mom and dad get very sort of excited about sharing all the richness. So it gets in the way in the same way that hotspots that aren't true sort of pedagogical scaffolding will also get in the way. And then for the same reason, the whole comprehension thing with the ebook versus the print book, when a parent is reading, the good news, bad news is most parents don't know how to read to kids. They do what I refer to as they're just on the page as opposed to diving in the page or helping the kid to go off the page. So it's a pretty linear experience for most kids and parents. So the kid, probably a little bit easier for that kid to stick or sort of hear the story. In the interactive one, it just gets a little bit, it's a little bit more complicated. You know. What I will tell you is that these studies are going to be specific to the content that they studied. You know, they may not be generalizable, but they certainly are sort of directional. This one's sort of interesting too, given all of the constructivisms in the room. This is a big study. It was done a year ago. So I would assume that the app population on the App Store is that much greater, but this is interesting. Which of these sets of stats best describe the distribution of educational apps currently available?
Interesting.
And by instructional, that definition is, you know, it's letters, colors, shapes, and numbers, you know, geography, context, right answer kinds of things. Manipulables, think of those as the kind of electronic stamp kits. There's a set of stuff that you can mess around with, but it is a limited set. And the constructive is the more open-ended, Lego-like, you know, bigger explorable. Ready?
It's like B and C.
So what's interesting to me about this is this a reflection of us, what we're making?
Yeah.
Or is this a reflection of what the market is asking for? Or is this an opportunity? I don't know.
Or
it's really interesting.
Or a problem in teaching approaches, instructional versus facilitation.
Or yeah, it's hard to say what's driving this.
Yeah.
I would say that a whole lot of it is the marketplace, because culturally we look at learning and education as book facts, as a culture. Maybe not the people in this room who like all this other sort of open-ended stuff and all the research that supports all the play and the exploration and the 3 C's and all that other business. But as a culture, education is the stuff that you get from books, and there's a right answer. All right, we are almost to the end. Okay, this report comes out of the UK. National Literacy Trust researched their population was like 3,500 families, and they looked at a relationship between a kid's reading ability, whether or not kids had a favorite book, and through the lens of, do they read just electronically, or do they read electronically and in print? So, and they had a number of issues, and they basically said, we think that e-readers are detrimental. They supported that claim with which of the following rationale? Kids who read on screen only are twice likely to be above average readers than those who read on screen and in print. Twice less likely. Kids who read on screen only are 3 times less likely to like reading. C, kids who read on screen only are a 1/3 less likely to have a favorite book. Or do they say that e-readers are not a good thing because it makes a good headline?
Boy.
One of the things that I would just sort of throw out to all of us to be wary of, there's a lot of research now that's coming, and a lot of it sets itself up as being causal, as opposed to there's a relationship. In this study, the kids who tended to only read on screen, they happen to not be good readers. They happen to not have a favorite book. But there's nothing in this data that says the reason why these kids aren't good readers is because they're reading on a screen. And there's a lot of that. There's a big legacy of that on the TV side, where it's like TV, it's like it was just linked to everything. And there's no data that's causal. So just be wary when you're looking at this stuff. And this is the last question. There go the applause. I'm about to show you this video, but here's what you need to think of. All right. When you look at this baby, this video, is this baby clueless, being raised by wolves, wasting her time better spent reading a book, happy and she knows it, or is she just hungry? Are we ready?
Give it a shot. People pull out the lasers and give us a good answer.
All right. Do you want to go for it before you see the video?
There's a strong tendency
Here we go.
toward B.
You have to wait.
Oh.
I've spent the last 8 or 9 years of my life building things for babies, and one of the fascinating things about them is people just don't give them credit for how much they know that's going on. And I just love this. So, and the answer is